Now let's check the old YouTube. And it looks like we're good because here we are. It is Saturday morning, the first DFS NBA strategy show of the season. It's your old pal EMAC, joined by Adam Ship, my money sharer. And we are going to be the regular pairing again for Saturday mornings. We will lobby once NFL is over to put this at a more gentlemanly hour of, say, 11 a.m. as opposed to 9:30. So under the auspices of, hey, we need to wait a little bit so we can get some of that morning news. But here we are. We have two NFL shows after us today in the can already. If you want to check it out on the YouTube channel, is the On the Contrary. It has featuring the guy from airyards.com. I believe that Josh Hermsmeyer, I think is his name. I just call him the Air Yards guy. So you know that Chris Spags is going to fanboy out on that one because he just loves him, the Air Yards. But that's the NFL. We've got the NBA today. There will be live before lock tonight for the 9-game main slate. That is going to be myself and one Fast Eddie Fear. Of course, we're going to want to hear what Eddie has to say, so he will be dominating the conversation there. I'm just, kind of there to be the guardrails, keep us online. But
even if you don't care what Eddie has to say, Eddie will dominate the conversation.
Yeah, I'll just be making lineups and Eddie can talk. So there we go. It works out. I volunteered and said, I can do this one. I don't mind. You guys, I know you guys like Eddie, but you'll get him on Saturday and Sunday. So the new season going forward is no Eddie on, I think it's Tuesdays and Fridays, because those are generally, Friday we wanted to have him have some family time if he's going to be doing Saturday and Sunday shows. So that's how that works out there. But let's get on into this. Let me get some of these tweets out of here, and we will talk a little bit about our presenting sponsor. That would be Yahoo. They do have the $250,000 baller this weekend, and they do have now CSV uploads, and I believe, did I hear correctly, Adam? They do have CSV edit available.
Yeah, I got an email last night that they have it. I haven't tested it out yet, but I'm taking them at their word. It'd be pretty messed up if they still don't. So
yes,
yeah.
I would assume that would be the case, but check that out. 10% management fee there. One of the lower that you'll see across the industry. It is, let's see, $250,000, 27,800 people. It can be 150 max, and we'll see what happens. I will still be putting some of my hand builds in there, and I have been enjoying it. Up around lunchtime, you will get the free Yahoo NFL Baller article, and of course, in about 30-40 minutes after the show, you'll get the free NBA cash build lineup, because I'm doing everything today, and I'm doing cheat sheets as well. So Josh gets the day off, and I'm on plugging all the extra spots here, Adam. But let's get started. There's an early game. We're going to forego that one. It is the Miami at Milwaukee. That's a 5 o'clock game. It's only as a single game slate there. I think Jimmy Butler is still going to be away. If I read the news correctly, he was going to be away from the team on this 2-game road trip, and then he will be joining them when they return to Miami to make his debut. And then, so of course that, who knows what Spoelstra is going to do. But you do have the random quarterback. Too many sports, Adam. The random point guard / shooting guard that got to start and had a good game. So I suspect he'll be in the cards again today. But let's start out here with Philly and Detroit. We do have, I think it's eight or nine teams of our 18 teams are on back-to-backs, meaning they played last night. So we will mention that. Keep that in mind. We do already have some injury news that is going to impact those things. But Adam, let's start off here with, one last housekeeping thing. Normally we'll do a little bit more of a review of the night before, etc., but we do have to keep an eye on our hard stop here for the NFL show coming up at 11. So we just wanted to focus on the content, and this will be turned into a podcast as well. All right, Adam. Philadelphia at Detroit. Andre Drummond apparently is a god at this point. Let's start there.
Yeah, so I mean, his salary finally has come up on DraftKings. He's not the easy plug and play that he was his first 2 games, but that's not to say he's not still a really strong option here. He's still below $10,000. We saw him play 41 minutes in Detroit's opening game against the Hawks. In their second game, he played 37 minutes. he alluded after the first game, he mentioned that the plan was for him to play monster minutes this season. So, maybe that 37 to 41 minute range really isn't, outliers at the beginning. We saw him play, big minutes last year as well. So I think projecting him in that at least, 36 minutes, probably more, is, a good way to go. Joel Embiid on the other side is questionable. So, you would still get Al Horford behind Embiid. So not a great matchup either way. But Drummond, obviously a really good rebounder, really good per minute producer. Without Griffin last year, averaged almost 1.5 fantasy points per minute. So once again, a really strong option.
All right, shout out to Popcorn Machine. They already have the games up from last night. I've looked at a couple of them. I wanted to look here, just calling up the Detroit game. I got too many windows open. I wanted to see if there was anything unique that came out of the last one. Let's see. They had a pretty commanding lead through most of the third quarter and then all of the fourth quarter over Atlanta. We did still see... Pardon?
Atlanta won.
Oh, I'm reading that back. Popcorn Machine. This is it. It takes a little while to get used to. Thank you, Adam, for pointing that out. I was going to say, because my next sentence wasn't going to make any sense in my head. I'm like, but Andre Drummond played the entire fourth quarter? Why did he do that? Okay, because it's flipped there, pal. It's flipped. I should be looking, reversing it. So if Popcorn Machine is a very fun tool. That's popcornmachine.net. You can see the game flow box scores there for free. Takes a little bit of getting used to read in all of the nuances and stats there. They do have game flow showing the score of the game as a graph, and it points up or down, points towards the team that is leading. So I missed that part. But the intriguing thing here is we've seen a relatively, it looks like through two games, steady rotation between the first unit and second unit. Not a ton of staggering here until we get to the fourth, and then they're just probably mixing and matching a little more, bringing in Luke Kennard for the offense. We saw some Langston Galloway there at the end. No Bruce Brown at all in the fourth quarter. Markieff Morris limited. He just seems like he is a mess at this point. Outside of Drummond, is there anybody of interest in this game? Potentially Kennard's the only one I'm thinking of myself.
Derrick Rose. Dwayne Casey said the plan is for Derrick Rose to play 27, 28 minutes a night, and he's only 4,900 on DraftKings. He's going to get up his shots. Reggie Jackson's questionable for this game as well. Not sure that they would necessarily give Rose more run. I think that it's more likely you just see more minutes go to like Langston Galloway, some combination of the other bench guys. But still, 27, 28 minutes of Derrick Rose is pretty nice at that salary. And the other side of that, knowing that they want Rose to play 27, 28 minutes, it does really scare me on Reggie Jackson, even if he does play. Alex and I both had talked before the Atlanta game about liking Jackson in tournaments because people were on Rose and Jackson was the obvious leverage play against him. We still haven't seen Rose play a single minute alongside Jackson through their first two games. In the first half of the last game they each played, Jackson played about 13, Rose played about 11 minutes, but you expect Rose to close games out. Jackson left the last game with an injury and didn't come back. So we didn't see the normal second half rotation, but in the first game of the season, they didn't play any minutes alongside each other. They split basically evenly in the first half. And if you know that they're aiming to play Rose 27 minutes, if they're not going to play them alongside each other, then it makes it so it seems like Jackson's normal rotation will be, half of the first half minutes and then one stint in the second half. So it does make, Jackson pretty scary, even if he's healthy.
Okay, thank you for that call out. That's a pretty good one there, and I had not heard the Rose minutes, but that, as long as they can keep him sort of ambulatory until Blake Griffin comes back, etc., that's going to be their best chance to do very well. We did just get our ownership projections here, so I will be loading those in. And then I see we have a new feature in the YouTube chat, so calling out Ben McBrizzle. He would like to say to you, this is a little love note. There's no hearts, but I'm envisioning them. So let's imagine there's hearts. Ship my money. Let's effing go get that bread, bro. Yeah. I'm reading that with emphasis just because that was a super chat, I think is what those are called. So it was a premium request from our YouTube friends there, Adam. So yeah, let's go get that bread, bro. Moving on here to the Philadelphia side, we've got, let me see, my filter's working there for me. Nobody is bouncing for a ton of minutes in some of our earlier projections here. A nice spread throughout the whole team. You do have Ben Simmons. We'll probably see him potentially approaching 30 along with Joel Embiid, but they're spreading things out with, they've got Tobias Harris, Mike Scott, Kyle O'Quinn, and then we also have James Ennis in the mix. None of those guys are overly exciting. Furkan Kormans, etc. But Al Horford at 5,800. If we can get 20-25 minutes of him, that is somewhat interesting. And then the guy I am curious about, Adam, have you watched Matisse Thybulle yet?
Haven't watched him. I've seen a lot of stuff about how well he's been playing defensively, but assuming that Embiid plays and nobody's out in this game, it's really tough to see where his minutes are coming from right now, enough to be DFS relevant. If Embiid and Scott are out, then the entire rotations change, and maybe you get some more playing time for Thybulle. But this isn't really the type of matchup that I would expect him to necessarily get more minutes either, just because there's nothing really on Detroit for him to defend. You have Derrick Rose, but outside of that, there's Andre Drummond is the Detroit offense, and Thybulle's not defending him. So, not the type of game where I would really want to take a shot on him. I do like Horford, like you said, probably plays 30 to 32 minutes. If Embiid's out, they should be more productive minutes, as he'd be playing at the 5 for a higher percentage of the time. He's affordable. The whole team's pretty underpriced, though. Detroit, not the best defense. Joel Embiid probably only playing 30 to 32 minutes based on previous rotations. Against the Celtics in their last game, he only played 23 minutes, but he missed his final rotation in the fourth quarter, played about 15 minutes in the first half. I don't think it's crazy to think that in a close game, he gets a little bit longer final stint of the second half. In the first half, he only played the last 3 minutes and 41 seconds. I think you could easily see that extended to like 6 minutes. So I'm okay projecting him for like 32 minutes in a competitive game. Last year without Butler, averaged 1.65 DraftKings points per minute, and he's only $9,300 on DraftKings. So if Embiid is in, I think that he's a strong option.
All right, excellent. So we'll definitely want to keep an eye on that one. I see I'm not as good as Josh yet. I've created my new spreadsheet, but
nobody's as good as Josh at that.
No, that actually is true. That is actually true. He does deserve his due and proper there. I'm still learning how I'm supposed to copy in my different data sources here, and it's mucking with my VLOOKUPs, but there we go. Because all of a sudden, Philadelphia turned into Cleveland because I copied it in the wrong spot. So I just wanted to come back here and look and see if there's anything else there with Philly, but I am not seeing anything.
Richardson and Simmons are underpriced too. It just gets into, you can obviously only roster so many guys, but you're going to get 35, 36 minutes from Ben Simmons, guard and forward eligibility on DraftKings, which is really appealing. Josh Richardson probably playing 34 to 36 minutes, sub 5K. Both of those guys, obviously are strong point per dollar options. They're not. Nobody from this team is like a huge priority for me on the slate overall, but they're both guys that would be towards the top of them, or there are a bunch of guys that are, I think, strong secondary options.
All right, moving along to our next game here, we do have Orlando at Atlanta. We are looking at a 218.5 over under. We've got Orlando favored by a bucket on the road. Let's start off there with Orlando. They have done a reasonable job, again, spreading out their minutes, which can be a little bit frustrating. But the guys we want to look at, or at least that I have some interest in, of course, would be Nikola Vucevic. Maybe a little bit on Jonathan Isaac, but he is well priced across the board. He's 18, on Yahoo. I was hoping for something more like 12. And then, yeah, that's it. Markelle Fultz, slightly interesting at 10 on Yahoo, depending how you feel about him. So for me, it's looking like it's probably going to be, Vucevic, and then maybe Aaron Gordon, who's 64 on DK. Little pricey for my taste at 7 on FanDuel and 29 on Yahoo, just because we never know where his minutes are going to land. What do you like here for the socialist minutes we're seeing from Orlando?
It's a nice matchup. Yeah, I mean, it's tough with them because when you get to guys like Gordon and Isaac, obviously they're both good players, but the minutes can be sporadic. They kind of can eat into each other as well. Vooch probably is the top option here. Played 34 minutes against Cleveland. He's 8,300, and he's someone who it was really tough, I think, to get to him against Cleveland because you had Drummond in that same price range. You had a lot of other underpriced centers, but with Drummond being priced up now, you kind of get that price range a little bit more to Vooch as clearly the top option there. So Vooch is my favorite guy from Orlando. Jonathan Isaac was in foul trouble in that last game. He lost probably about 5-6 minutes to foul trouble. Those minutes went to Al-Farouq Aminu. So I think you probably get closer to 30 minutes for Isaac. Gordon also Gordon also missed a stretch at the end of the first half. I think it's more likely you get 33 minutes from Gordon too. So I don't think the minutes are quite as bad as it looks based on the Cleveland game log.
Okay, that's good to call out there. On the other side, you have Trae Young, who's been an outstanding youngster there. He is going to be a threat to lead the league in assists. You've got John Collins, always a solid option as long as he is out of foul trouble. Alex Len, question marks abound there. It doesn't have to deal with Dwayne Dedmon behind him, but that still doesn't mean he's going to get a lot of unfettered run. And then you have new acquisition Jabari Parker, calling out Parker not on DraftKings at 24, but on FanDuel at 24, but DraftKings at 4,300. That seems like an intriguing price point here. What do you like from the Hawks as we head into this young season?
Yeah, speaking of socialist minutes,
yeah.
You obviously like Trae Young. He showed you last game exactly, what he can do. He just was making every shot from anywhere on, the correct side of the court. Like he just pulled up and knocked down a three from the logo at one point. It was just one of those games for Young, and that's the kind of upside he has. He's not going to be as consistent or as good of a per minute producer as a lot of the guards that he's priced around, but he does still give you that monster upside. And because he's not as good of a point per dollar option, it tends to keep his ownership down as well. Not a great matchup against Orlando. They were one of the best defensive teams in the league in the second half last year. Don't play at the fastest pace, and Young isn't cheap. So again, he's just a secondary option for me here, but you really just can't deny the upside that he has. I think that Collins is a bit more appealing just because he's a lot cheaper than Young is, playing healthy minutes. He played 30 minutes against Detroit. I think that going forward, you probably see a little bit more run for him as well. He basically didn't play his final rotation of the first half. I'm not really sure what the reason was, but missed a few minutes there. So I think you get a few more minutes from him going forward. That Collins and Young, obviously the two main pieces from this team. Jabari Parker at that cheap price tag, like you said, though, played 23 minutes against Detroit. I think that you're going to generally see him anywhere from 20 to 24, 25 minutes, depending on game flow and how he's playing. We know he's a good offensive player that doesn't do a whole lot on the defensive end. So that's kind of the type of guy I don't mind taking shots on when they're cheap, because if he's shooting well, if he's scoring, he's probably going to be able to stay on the court a little bit longer.
All right, let's see. Let's get rid of that, and then let's let me see, block that. So there you go. Thanks, Big Chungus. Missed you there, buddy. Oh wait, no, I actually didn't. All right, let's see. I wanted to let our buddy El Negro Loco there have a little FanDuel fun. Because we sometimes I get a little Yahoo DraftKings centric, but thus far in the games we've spoken about, the most intriguing option coming in on FanDuel is going to be Nikolai Vucevic, 8,900 at center. He is going to be, we're projecting him for about 20% of the field to have him on their rosters. Some of the question marks that are going to be around him or potential other choices will be DeAndre Drummond. If you're going up in the pricing list, that's going to be a little bit tricky in my opinion there with that matchup against Joel Embiid and or whomever. If he's in or out, that will affect us. But then you've got cheapies, Dwayne Dedmon, Aaron Baines. We're going to be talking about a ton of the Phoenix and Sacramento guys when we get down there a little bit later in their respective matchups on the back-to-back. Anything else you would like to mention from this one, Adam?
I kind of mentioned that Al-Farouq Aminu got extra minutes in the last game because of Jonathan Isaac's foul trouble. I still think he plays around 24 minutes. He's worth pointing out on DraftKings just because there's not a ton of really cheap value there. They did a pretty good job of pretty quickly pricing up the value from last night. And so you have Al-Farouq Aminu at 3,600, probably not getting a lot of ownership, I wouldn't think, just because he really shouldn't. But assuming that's the case, he's the kind of guy that at 3,600, it doesn't take a whole lot for him to get a couple extra minutes and have a good game there.
Yep, that sounds like the way to go. All right, let's see here on to our next game. We've got some chuckleheads there in chat, but they won't be there for long. Oh, too many windows here, Adam. On to our next one here. We have Boston at New York. No strangers to playing each other. Boston road favorites because, hey, LOL Knicks, you've got Boston favored by 6, a 212.5 over under. I'm seeing a 213 over under and a 213.5 over under. So, that's only a point difference. So not that big of a deal, but we'll have to see where that settles in. I don't think that's going to change our direction in any way. You know what changed my direction last night, Adam? Elfrid mother effing Payton. Man, did he... I don't know what to do. This is literally the perfect situation for him. Plenty of guys to pass to. He doesn't have to worry about rebounding. He can drive, get lost in the trees. We know he contributes a little bit of everything across the line with career numbers, about 11 points per game, 4.4 rebounds per game, 6.5 assists per game, 1.3 steals per game. Those are solid numbers. He's always a threat for a triple-double. Does have 16 in his 343 career games. I don't know. Maybe I should temper my expectations because Fizdale. What do you think about Elf? And then what do you think about the 8,000 power forwards for the Knicks?
Yeah, I think yesterday went kind of exactly as expected with Elf in terms of it's just going to happen all season long with the Knicks. I said yesterday that I thought Payton was a good play at his salary, but I wouldn't play him in cash. I went ahead and ended up playing him in head-to-heads because I had the exact amount of money left over, and I got what I deserved there. He was fine but he only played 24 minutes. He didn't get any fourth quarter run. And if you look at Popcorn Machine, you can kind of see the reason for that. Payton subbed out after almost 5 minutes in the third quarter. Alonzo Trier came in and shot 5 of 7 from the field, got hot, played a huge stretch of minutes, and then they just went with a different closing lineup. So that's going to happen all season long. They have a ton of bodies on this team that are all interchangeable pieces. You have Payton, Smith, Trier, Ntilikina, who's not even in the rotation right now, all those potential point guards, in addition to Fizdale wanting RJ Barrett and Randall to handle the ball. You have Ellington in the backcourt. It's just an absolute mess. You can't predict exactly what's going to happen with this team, with the exception of Julius Randle playing big minutes and RJ Barrett playing big minutes. Those two things I don't think change. But outside of that, it's going to be all over the place. We've seen big minutes from Marcus Morris as well, but that's not even something that I think has to happen. Like if you look at the first half rotation, he didn't play his final stint of the second quarter. He got a ton of second half minutes, but he's another just kind of interchangeable piece. So outside of Barrett and Randall, I really don't think there's going to be anything overly consistent with this team.
Yeah, the truth is asking, in YouTube here, did the Knicks even have 10 assists as a team? They had 14. So you're pretty close to being spot on there. Kind of a mess. I was looking at the lineup and said, all right, the Alonzo Trier experiment lasted a grand total of about 7 minutes. That was foolish. Frankie Ntilikina was out there looking good in the summer season, playing for France, etc., but he's not really in the picture. Dennis Smith Jr., they traded for him, or they traded away Porzingis because, hey, they're the Knicks. Didn't do anything with the cap space, didn't get their free agents. We'll see what happens with the draft picks, but why they're not playing him, who knows? So I said, okay, it's got to be Elfrid Payton. He's the veteran. He's not a guy that's going to be gunning the ball, so it should keep literally everybody else happy. But let's not do a lot with him. So
all you have to do to really understand what the Knicks are going to be like this year is just look at last night's rotation. Wayne Ellington, 0 first half minutes, finishes the game with 11 minutes. And by the way, this was a 4-point game. It wasn't a blowout.
Right, where they were surging in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Wayne Ellington played almost the entire fourth quarter after not playing a single minute prior. Bobby Portis played 0 minutes in the second half, finished the game with 9.9 minutes. Mitchell Robinson didn't play a single minute after he subbed out in the third quarter. Their second half rotations aren't even close to mirroring their first half rotations, much less going from one game to the next.
Yeah. This is a mess. All right. Let's talk about rational teams here, if that's possible. Hey, that would be Boston. You've got let's see, Kemba Walker coming in, feeling his way to figure out what's going on with the team. You've got a now injured Enes Kanter, who is expected to be out for the next handful of games. You have Daniel Theis, who will be a game-time decision. He was injured mid-game last night, and overnight swelling, yada yada yada, with his ankle. Who knows what's going to happen there? Taco Fall apparently gave himself a concussion on the ceiling somewhere. Yeah, there we are, Adam. Your Boston Celtics. Now, what's exciting with the Celtics? Well, Jason Tatum is looking pretty solid, 6,500. Great matchup for him. Gordon Hayward, a little bit intriguing at 5,900 there. And these are DraftKings prices. He's had 37 and 35 minutes in the 2 games thus far this season. We like to see that. So I think for me, it's going to be the forwards here. What do you like from the Celtics?
I think Jaylen Brown, when you look at salary, really stands out. He's still only $5,000 on DraftKings. He has guard forward eligibility, and he only played 20 minutes in the opener because of extreme foul trouble. Played 38 minutes last night. I think normally you're going to see him settle into like the 34 to 35 minute range, or 32 to 35 minute range, kind of depending on how the game goes. But he's a productive enough player that he really shouldn't be that cheap. I think there is upside for guys like Tatum, Kemba, Hayward as well, but Brown's the one that really stands out to me amongst that group.
All right. Yeah. It's boy.
The front court is interesting. Obviously, waiting on the Daniel Theis news. If he's in, it's just kind of a mess that I'm not really that interested in because they're going to rotate so many bodies through. But if Daniel Theis sits, then obviously there's more minutes there for Robert Williams, but also a $3,200 Grant Williams should see more minutes. If you look in the second half, Williams finished the game with 22 minutes played yesterday. He got pretty consistent run in both halves, but it would just kind of help to solidify his minutes even more if you don't have Theis in there.
All right, there's a tiny chance I'm gonna have a repair guy show up, Adam. I forgot to mention this to you, because our refrigerator's broken. It's not running, so I don't have to go catch it. There you go, hashtag dad joke. But if I have to duck out, you'll know why. I'll just run down and let them in and be back here. But I can see my dog barking, but I can't tell if it's the UPS truck, which she likes to bark at, or if it's someone that's going to be coming to the door. So, little on-air production meeting. Moving on to our next game here. Indiana is going into Cleveland to take on the Cavs. Indiana favored by 5.5, 213 over under here from the numbers that I pulled last night. I haven't looked for an update there. Let's see. Do we have anybody who's dinged up? Jeremy Lamb, yes, sore hip. And then TJ Warren, sore hip of his own. He is likely to play in this one. Did leave early in the last contest. We talked a little bit last night on the Early Bird podcast about Domantas Sabonis and Miles Turner, who played. One of them was on the court the entire time, which we like to see, and that's really nothing different from last year. But they played just over half their minutes with each other on the court. They both started, both closed. Very exciting to see these guys get some action. Some of the algorithms are trailing off of last year's production and usage rates and minutes. So I think we have an opportunity here. Would you like to strike first with Turner or Sabonis?
Yeah, I like both of them, especially Sabonis. But the huge minutes against the Pistons. You got 38 minutes from Turner, just shy of 36 from Sabonis. And the rotation went exactly like we expected. You got them starting alongside each other, playing a ton of minutes alongside each other, but also Sabonis as the backup center. And that's really important to him because he's productive when he plays alongside Turner. Last year, he averaged about 1.05 DraftKings points per minute when he was on the floor with Miles Turner. But when he was on the floor without Turner, he averaged 1.32 points per minute. So it's really important that he gets that playing time. And if you expect him to get 10 to 12 minutes without Turner on the floor, that represents, around 33% of his total playing time. If Turner were to get, 32 minutes, then you're starting to get to like closer to half of Sabonis' playing time. So it still makes him a really productive option. It's a favorable matchup against a terrible Cleveland defense. Big minutes for both guys, I expect. And Turner is cheaper than Sabonis. So while I think Turner's a little bit riskier, I still think that the salary is very favorable, especially because we saw so many minutes for him against Detroit.
Yeah. Yes. And we're sorry, choking there. I can't have anything to drink because there's no cold Pepsi. It's all warm. So yeah, the no refrigerator is no fun. So this is for Luke Leonard. He said, should we still set a rule in Fantasy Cruncher to not pair Turner and Sabonis? No, I think we can definitely lift that rule as long as we see them both continuing to play a lot of minutes, and with them both starting, that should be the easy baseline for us there. Additionally, where they're priced, again, as I kind of alluded to there on most of the sites, it's well worth it. I mean, I wouldn't force both of them into my same lineups, but it's a nice matchup tonight for them. I mean, basically they'll be going against Nance and Tristan Thompson, etc. So good matchup for both, and I am very comfortable with it. That could change, of course, but we'll have to see. They got to get their best players on the court, especially with Victor Oladipo out of the picture for a little while as he recovers from his injury. Looking at anybody here from the backcourt, Malcolm Brogdon has been more or less outstanding, though at 6,500. I think that's fairly priced on DraftKings. We are looking at him here for just about 6%, to be on just about 6% of the lineup, so very contrarian there. Any thoughts on Brogdon or anybody else from the Pacers backcourt?
Yeah, I think Brogdon's a solid point per dollar option. Played about 36 minutes in the first game. He should have opportunities on this team. Had a low usage rate in the preseason, but was at 24.4%, which was the highest on the team in their first game of the season. I expect the usage to kind of fluctuate game by game, but he'll contribute rebounds, he'll contribute assists as well. So I still think that's a solid salary. He's not one of my favorite point guards, but he's kind of a guy that I'm not upset if he fills in all lineups because Cleveland is so bad defensively.
All right. Speaking of that lovely defensive team, that is Cleveland. Tristan Thompson, price creeping up a little bit after a solid first game. I still think he's adequate in this one. It'll be a contrarian option, so I don't hate him. Not going to be gravitating towards him. If we look specifically here at DraftKings, and then I'll see what we got on Yahoo and FanDuel. But Colin Sexton, 5,200. That's kind of interesting. Shetty Osman at 5,000. That's interesting. And then the disappointing Jordan Clarkson, who I thought would be so much better, as a team that is just nothing but garbage time. That fits right up his alley. He's 3,900, but he doesn't really seem to be secure with his role and or minutes, so kind of tournament only for him. What do you like here with this mixture of guys getting potential playing time? And notice I did not mention Kevin Love. I feel he's still a little spendy at 8,400 there.
Yeah, it's tough for me to get to Love just because of all the guys priced around him. They're going to play a lot more minutes. Cleveland, basically just a tournament team for me. It's obviously a tough team to trust because they're so bad. It's not a great matchup against Indiana, but you do get some guys with solid ceilings. Colin Sexton has played really well going back to last season with Kevin Love on the floor. He just kind of opens things up for Sexton. And Sexton usually doesn't really get ownership because, he is inconsistent, he is young, and he's on the half. So he's someone that you can kind of differentiate with in tournaments pretty easily. Same goes for Chetty, who should play big minutes. And one other guy to keep an eye on is Darius Garland. Played 31 minutes in Cleveland's first game. He's someone that a lot of people like as a really good rookie this year. He's a little more expensive than I'd like at 5,200 on DraftKings. Like between the two of them, I would give the edge to Colin Sexton. But if Garland's a little bit cheaper on another site, he's someone to keep an eye on.
Oh, I had to look it up. I had meant to do it before. On my first ever fantasy basketball team, Adams, would be back in the fall of 1989. Hey, around the same time you started walking this earth. We had Winston Garland was my point guard on my team for my first ever fantasy team. The father of Darius Garland. There we go. We have some continuation here.
Not bad. So I just looked at the pricing across sites. He's $21 on Yahoo, so pretty expensive there.
Yeah.
5,300 on FanDuel, though. Basically the same salary as on DraftKings, so probably the most favorable play there.
Yeah, Shetty at 52. Oops, Where did he go? At 5,000 even, I thought. No, sorry, Sexton. Shetty at 5,000 even. Sexton at 59 on FanDuel. They're not going to be in most people's plans. I'm okay with Shetty, depending on what you're doing with those two small forward spots. It's also an intriguing pivot for a discounted guy here. He's not going to be quite at the same discount as the Phoenix guys or Sacramento guys, but as we saw last night, minutes can be volatile, and at least we know Shetty is going to be getting the minutes. Anything else from this interdivision rivalry?
I don't think so.
All right, we've got 5 to go here. We're going to talk Toronto and Chicago. Both these teams are on a back-to-back. We do have, you guys can go check this out on my pinned tweet. It's yesterday's tweet, but the link will get you there. We are doing the Fred Van Elite Fan Club. I will be playing Freddie. This contest must fill to run. It's $1. Top 10 are paid out, and then whoever wins, if you have an Awesemo avatar, you will get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus full access content. Yesterday it didn't run because we got ambitious after the first night. Went with 100. We didn't get it. Got put in 50 for the time being, and there's already 11 in there, so that one's gonna fill. If you want a shot at that extra Awesemo contest, do not dilly-dally, or free premium content, do not dilly-dally there. Let's start off with Fred Van Vliet. Adam, I mentioned this last night, I'm gonna say it every time, he's a little slower than everybody on the court, a little doughier than everybody on the court, and a little shorter than everybody on the court. But he's in their plans. He's going to be getting minutes. That is something to be said. I don't think the price is right. But the matchup, I don't hate it going against Chicago. Toronto favored by a bucket here. 220 over under. That's edging towards one of the higher ones of the day. Not the highest, but in that top 4 or 5 there. How are you feeling about Mr. Van Vliet?
Playing huge minutes. Played 41 minutes last night. Played a bunch of minutes in the opener as well. Obviously, the opener went to overtime, but averaging 43 minutes per game through the first 2. So that means he was going to play about 40 in that first game. That's really appealing, in terms of minutes. The thing that keeps him as like a secondary option is I think I would prefer Brogdon at a similar price point. And then, like I had said before, there's just some other point guards that I like a little bit more anyway. So nothing wrong with getting to Van Vliet. That's a ton of minutes for a guy that is reasonably productive. But there's just some options I like more. If I'm going to the backcourt on Toronto, I like Kyle Lowry a bit more. He's 7,300 on DraftKings, playing big minutes. He's productive going back to last season without Kawhi Leonard on the floor. Has the second highest usage on the team through 2 games behind Siakam at 22%. Leads the team with a 25.5% assist percentage as well, and is just a pretty solid floor, reasonable ceiling play.
All right, I am just looking here. Did you know, and I'm gonna give proper credit here, did you know that, this is per Jarrell Martin, I don't think that Jarrell Martin, but Jarrell Martin from YouTube chat, that Fred Van Vliet from Illinois, about 3 hours outside of Chicago, there will be friends and family at this game for the former Wichita Shocker. Does that move the needle at all?
It doesn't change anything for me, but I did forget that he was from outside Chicago.
So there we are for that. So I dropped the link to my pinned tweet there in chat. You got to join the Awesemo DraftKings League, and then when we spawn the contest, you'll get notified if you so choose, or you can see them pop up there. But that is how you can get into tonight's Fred Van Elite contest. I am required to play him. You guys do not have to. We are now up to 16 of 50, so that one is going to fill. Win with an avatar and get a free month. That's the bonus for you. Plus, you can make fun of me on Twitter, and that seems to be a nice pastime for a lot of people, Adam. It's okay.
Also in Slack chat or any other media.
Sometimes people do on podcasts. I noticed you had a nice little troll of me. Check me out hungover and EMAC telling dad jokes at 9:30 in the morning. So, only one of those is happening tonight or this morning. Yeah. Just one. You're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah.
There.
Long day for me today. Couldn't go out last night.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see. We've got back here to Toronto. Siakam been phenomenal. 8,800 there on FanDuel. That is a tremendous price. over here on presenting sponsor Yahoo, he is 37. I think that is also a very solid one. I think he's a strong threat in this matchup to crest over the 40 fantasy point plateau. Kind of doing a little bit of everything. He was doing a lot more ball handling than I thought, Adam. That was the one thing that kind of surprised me. Now, he wasn't like he was, when I was watching, he wasn't really bringing it up, but he was initiating things from the wing and the upper third there of the arc on either side. Including his own dribble drives. And I'm like, whoa, when did that happen? But if that's an added feature to the game, in addition to the rebounding, mid-range scoring, and finishing, he's a pretty damn good player at this point. How do you like him tonight? Is he a core play for you?
I honestly, are we on Siakam?
Siakam,
okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's tough. I don't know that I would say core play just because he's kind of awkwardly priced on DraftKings relative to some other guys, but I do like him a lot. 8,500, I think he's my favorite option from the Raptors. He's playing really big minutes. He's doing everything through 2 games, 35% usage rate. That's 35% in each of the games. He's rebounding. We know he's going to be, just obviously very, very involved in all aspects this season, playing huge minutes. Expect him to take a step forward or a couple steps forward without Kawhi. So he is my favorite option from the Raptors.
All right, let's go.
Also, is he still a small forward on FanDuel?
He is a small forward on FanDuel, 8,800.
That keeps him even more appealing there.
All right, let's see. On the Chicago side, Zach Attack, phenomenal. Last night dropped 58 fantasy points, was 13 of 23 from the field, made half of his 8 3-pointers. And then he also chipped in with 6 boards, 4 assists, 3 steals, and a block. We do know that he does get those defensive stats from time to time. 7,700, that's a reasonable price point there on DK. You also have Lauri Markkanen at 8,100. He is someone that's quite intriguing. If you got to see the layup line video there on Twitter, he did a between the legs dunk in the layup line. Pretty impressive. Adam, of course, all these guys are darn impressive. The one concerning mark, Otto Porter limited to 24 minutes. They've said they're doing some load management for previous injuries. That sounds like a smokescreen for he's hurt right now. I'm glad that contract isn't on the Wizards anymore because, hey, it just doesn't look that good next to the John Wall contract sitting on the sidelines. But to me, it sounds like potentially Porter wouldn't surprise me if he's even limited more than 24 minutes or is a late not play or DNP in this one, which of course would give Markkanen and Levine and potentially Wendell Carter, I think, would be one of the recipients for that one. Do you like those top 3? Would you throw in Satoransky or the zombie Thaddeus Young?
I really like Levine. I don't really know what's going on with his salary. Only played 33 minutes last night, dealt with some foul trouble, but still getting up a ton of shots. He's going to do everything for this team this year. So I think that it's kind of weird how cheap he is. Not the best matchup against Toronto, but as we've talked about before, Toronto is playing faster this year without Kawhi. So that's appealing for Chicago. He's just, really reasonably priced. I think Markkanen's fine. I would rather go to Siakam than Markkanen, but there's not really an issue with Markkanen. Then one other guy to point out relating to Otto Porter is Kobe White, who is just a shooter off the bench. The guy's just coming in, chucking up shots. And he has been subbing in for Otto Porter. If Porter's limited or out, you should see more minutes for Kobe White. He's still really cheap. Not going to give you a lot in the way of peripherals, most likely, but definitely going to come off the bench and fire, kind of, Lou Williams style. 22.9% usage, averaging 28.7 minutes through his first 2 games.
Yeah, 16 and 13 shot attempts from the field, averaging 4.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists. You're right about the peripherals. They're going to be catch as catch can. First game, it was 3 boards, 7 assists. Second game, it was 6 boards, 2 assists. That just demonstrates a fair amount of inconsistency. But if he is going to be seeing 27 to 30 minutes of run, that is an intriguing play, particularly on Yahoo, where he is 12. That could be some definite placeholder value and or a pivot off of some of the guys we're going to talk about in the later contest there that the masses will be on. I just wanted to see where he is. Yeah, 4,700, point guard eligible on FanDuel. and then 47 point guard, shooting guard on DraftKings. So solid call up there, Adam. Thank you. He's going to make my short list of early guys.
Also, if you're making 150 lineups, make sure you set a rule for at most one of Satoransky or Chris Dunn. Satoransky 4,900 on DraftKings, but on FanDuel he is 4,800. So a decent value there, but we haven't seen him play a lot of minutes through the first 2 games. That's something that I think is just going to be game flow dependent. He's getting paid enough that there's certainly going to be games where he plays 30 minutes. We just haven't seen a lot of fourth quarter run from him. But the other side of that is Chris Dunn, kind of eating into his minutes. Dunn played 26 yesterday to Satoransky's 22. Dunn's only 3,900 on DraftKings, and on FanDuel he is 4,900. So no interest in Dunn on FanDuel, but on DraftKings at 3,900, he's the kind of guy that you can sprinkle into some lineups if you're playing 150. You just don't want Satoransky in there as well.
All right, moving along to our next game, we have the New Orleans Pelicans. What ended up happening in that game last night? I know that did they lose? Oh God, they did lose. So Adam and I were doing the podcast, and New Orleans came out, scored 41 points in the first quarter. Wow, they're on the way to a strong showing. Allowed 45 points to Dallas in the second quarter. So nice extremes there, and then ended up losing by 7. Let's see here. Who did we have coming in? Favors did a lot better than I expected. Brandon
Didn't play the fourth quarter.
He did or did not?
Did not.
He did not play the fourth quarter. Do you expect him to play the fourth quarter much?
I expect for right now this team to just be entirely game flow dependent. In this game, Redick and Favors didn't play at all in the fourth. They closed with Josh Hart, Kenrich Williams, Holiday, Ball, and Ingram. Hart, once again, was playing really well off the bench. There's going to be games where he plays 26, 27 minutes because he gets run like he did last night. There's going to be games where he plays 18 minutes because he doesn't come in and light it up off the bench, and they go back to, a Redick, or they, put Favors back in at center. So it's just a really, really tough rotation right now because even Alvin Gentry, I don't think really knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing as a coach. He doesn't know what he's doing in terms of how the rotation is going to go on a game-to-game basis. He even spoke before yesterday's game and said that obviously it's not sustainable to be playing 11 or 12 guys all season long, but there's also a lot of guys that deserve minutes, and he kind of has to figure it out, and it's going to change most likely based, on different games. So it's really, really tough, I think, to confidently predict how it goes. The way you deal with that is to use the grouping option in Fantasy Cruncher. Just make sure that if you're playing Josh Hart, it's not with, a Redick or Lonzo potentially. Just kind of try and set it up so that your lineups that have guys from the Pelicans, you're giving yourself the best chance to have guys on the floor that close. You don't want to have, someone you don't want to have 2 guys from the Pelicans that aren't going to close at the same time.
Yeah. So best bets to close, Ingram, Holiday, Ball, and then as you mentioned, it's going to depend on what the opposing.
But even the first game, Lonzo didn't close. Hart closed over Lonzo in the first game.
The one thing about Hart, and I know legalized, this one's for you. I know a few people have been talking about him in our premium Slack chat. He is, and I would say he's heavily rebound dependent, but when he has his really good games, it's because he ends up with 7 to 9 rebounds. If that isn't there, he gets his line gets real empty real quick. Even if he scores 13, 14 points with 2 rebounds, that just doesn't get you there. But the big games you see, he gets the rebounds and then a couple steals or blocks, and all of a sudden he's got a monster game. But he disappears for massive stretches of time. This is something that we saw for several seasons when he was in Los Angeles with the Lakers. Now that he's on the Lakers, Cajun style here, it's not going to be that much more helpful. Guys, I think that would be the first to lose minutes in most situations. Probably Jahlil Okafor, followed by the rookie Melly, depending if his shot's coming down or not. And then Alexander Walker, I think, would be the other guy that is very tenuous. I think Frank Jackson has a chance as the backup ball handler that he should see 12 to 15 minutes, but that's not really inspiring either because I just don't see the upside. But I see those other guys going to 0 or single-digit minutes before he does.
I think Alexander Walker gets minutes ahead of Jackson.
Okay.
But other than that, I agree with you. It's weird that Melly isn't a bigger part of the rotation. I think he provides 3-point shooting that they really need off the bench now that Redick's in the starting lineup. So I could see that maybe that's something that changes as the season goes forward and you start seeing Melly come in earlier. But for right now, he's clearly not getting preferential treatment. I think Alexander Walker probably is ahead of Jackson. Like, if Jackson went to 0 minutes, I wouldn't be surprised. If Alexander Walker did, I would be surprised. But I agree with you on Ja. He actually didn't play a single minute in the second half. That's something that, again, potentially you could see games where they just go small and Okafor doesn't play. You got Melly basically took Okafor's second half minutes, but I don't know if that was just a matchup thing. I don't know, really what the reasoning was there.
All right, we've got Eton Moore. He was the guy I'm surprised isn't out. I figured he'd be, and I didn't see if he was injured or whatever, but he was a DNP. Let's go with it.
Yeah, he played the first game. That's another one where it's kind of surprising because him and Melly are the two 3-point shooters.
Right.
They don't really seem to be interested in playing them.
No, there we are.
Like their second unit in the first half was Okafor, Hart, Williams, Jackson, Alexander Walker. Not a whole lot of shooting on that unit.
I have to go look this up. No, interesting. Okay. All right. I thought I was going to have some fun there, but I guess I am not. Anything else that you want to mention here as I look up one more thing quickly?
No, I don't think so.
All right, getting rid of that one, closing down this screen, back to my new one, riveting, I know. Houston favored by 10. Did you watch any of the Russell Westbrook, James Harden experiment yet?
I don't think so. I don't remember.
How are you feeling about their opportunities? I mean, I think we're all going to be interested in defaulting towards James Harden here, but is Westbrook a threat to cramp his style? We saw them end up losing in that game that they had a lead of nearly 16 points even midway through the third quarter against Milwaukee it was, and then they ended up losing by 6. So dramatic change there from midway through the third quarter to the end of the game. We saw, let me see, Westbrook and Harden. Yep, one of them was on the floor the entire time. Obviously, both closed, but they were staggered somewhat. I would have figured them to be staggered a little bit more. We'll see that probably as it comes along. They
were staggered as much as they possibly could have been.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to talk and read at the same time here, Adam. I'm not that good at it. Just looking. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at PJ Tucker there. Okay, so between the two of them, it would be Harden for me, but I really don't see a need to go there tonight at his price point across the various sites. If it's not going to be Harden, potentially Capella, but after that, I guess Eric Gordon would be the one reserve that we have interest in. It's a lot of ball dominant guys here, and I liked PJ Tucker in the last matchup. I don't like him as much in this one. What would you like to do with the Rockets?
I think Harden's the top player on the entire slate.
Okay, set me straight here.
And Westbrook's not far behind them. They're both inexpensive on DraftKings, and on FanDuel they're priced a little bit better, but it's still not a really expensive price tag. 11.5 for Harden, 10.2 for Westbrook. The minutes are going to be there, especially Harden, at 36 minutes. Westbrook maybe plays a couple more minutes this game than he did last game. He did, if I remember correctly, deal with some fouls. I'm trying to double check, but I thought in the second half Westbrook picked up a couple. But either way, he played 33 minutes. Maybe you get a couple more. But obviously they're being staggered, so you're getting like 30% of the minutes without Harden on the floor or without Westbrook, depending on which one you're talking about. In the preseason, usage was there for both. You had like a 38% usage rate for Harden. It was up around 30% for Westbrook. In the first game, they were both between 28 and 29%, but plenty of opportunities too. You had 16 rebound chances for Westbrook, which led the team. For Harden, he had 7 rebound opportunities. Westbrook, was picking up a bunch of assists as well. And this game against a really fast New Orleans team is a really favorable matchup. So I love both guys. And then Capella in the front court. Again, he's a beneficiary, like I mentioned, with Vooch of Drummond's price tag coming up, it makes it easier to get to Capella. He may lose some rebounds to Westbrook, but he still was second on the team with 12 rebound chances against Milwaukee, and he's favorably priced. So I really like all three of those guys.
All right, here's the fun one. So if I go look at where these guys are ranking, it looks like Westbrook is going to be the third most popular option on FanDuel. This is our preliminary projections here. It looks like Harden is going to be number 4 on DraftKings. Westbrook number 1, Harden number 3. So clearly I stand corrected, and that's the one nice thing about the opening strategy show here. You can figure out what your preconceived notions may be, and then people can help you adjust them as needed. That is the one great thing we have here at Awesemo.com. Plenty of help there in the premium Slack from our avid fans and subscribers that have excellent thoughts and ideas on just about everything. You can interface with all of our contributors as well. You have Adam and Alex and Laffy and Josh and Jake all holding office hours at various points in time. The other great thing is on the weekdays here at 4 o'clock, you get Alex doing a subscriber-only private video where he takes questions and breaks down the slate as he is seeing it. So while you're not seeing him in front of the paywall like you did for the deep dive in basketball, he is behind the paywall, and that'll be going on most of the larger slates, and then especially as NFL winds down, I'm sure Saturdays will be added in to that as well, along with the other days. So definitely check that out. If you've not yet signed up for Awesemo, you can use the promo code NBA Strategy and receive half of a month for free. It's a pretty good deal there. All right, Adam. So crazy people like me, maybe joining the crowd here. We're getting back in step. Were you ever in band in school? No.
I think maybe for like a year in like 4th grade.
Oh yeah, then you lucked out. You didn't have to do marching band. Oh my God, trying to march and play an instrument and stay in step. Yeah. So I was out of step, but I'm back. I'm back with us.
You being in the marching band is probably the least surprising thing I've ever heard on the show.
So here's the funny thing. The school I went to, our high school, 9 through 12, when I was there, had 280 people in it. On big years, we would get just over 300. So my class was one of the bigger classes with about 83 or 84 people when I was the senior. So it was such a smaller school that when you were out of the pep, so everybody was either in band or choir. Okay. Everybody in band marched. That was just what you had to do. And at the football games, of course, with half the guys out there on the football team, there was not many people left. In basketball season, this is the best part. Even they would have the same set of pep songs, and we had one of the most popular pep bands. We got noted throughout the state when we go to the state basketball tournament, etc. You were in the band for life. Even when I wasn't in band class, they would pull me in. Yeah, we don't have enough trombones tonight. You're in. And they would just set it up so they were literally playing the same 20 songs like every year. And you just knew what they were. And if they needed somebody, there you go. We'd even play when we came back for college break over the winters and stuff. So that's what happens when you grow up in a small town.
Yeah, small town. I'll say my graduating class, it was 3 to 4 times the size of your high school.
Yes. So different worlds, my friend. Yeah. Different worlds. All right. So back to today, back to reality. We've got our next game. Oh, Washington at San Antonio. Adam, you and I are both Wizards fans. I'm back now that Ernie Grunfeld is out of the picture. I'm trying to figure out who my favorite player is. I don't know. It's still TBD, or it could be TB. That would be Thomas Bryant, I guess. Now that Kelly Oubre Jr. and Tomas Satoransky are no longer with the Wizards, but Davis Bertans and Mr. Wagner are quite intriguing coming off the bench. I believe Davis Bertans is going to be very familiar with the shooting environment tonight here in San Antonio. What do you want to do with your Washington Wizards?
Tough matchup for the Wizards, but some pretty decent options. You mentioned Bertans, who I don't know that appealing is the right word, but he's still really, really cheap. He's 3,500 on DraftKings. He's playing 26 to 28 minutes, and obviously it's only 2 games, and it's tough to project that many minutes for someone coming off the bench, but it does make a lot of sense for him on this team. He's a knockdown 3-point shooter, and their second unit badly needs that. And then closing out games, they need that as well. Isaac Bonga doesn't really offer that. And so we've seen Bertans closing over him. And that's something that I think will happen more often than not. The exception would be if the Wizards, jump out to or have a big lead in the fourth quarter. I would expect more Bonga over Bertans, but I don't think the Wizards are going to be in that situation all that often. I certainly don't expect it all in the second half of back-to-back at San Antonio. So that's something that I think you can look to. Had virtually no ownership last night. I'm not sure that he'll get much tonight either. Beyond that, though, you get, I think, tournament options in Beal and Bryant, and even Rui. All 3 of those guys have solid upside, especially Bryant and Beal. They're not the best point per dollar options at their position, but we've seen 2 really bad shooting games from Beal to open the season, but 20-plus field goal attempts in each game. I don't expect him to be particularly efficient this year because he doesn't have that many good players around him. But he's going to get the shots up. He's going to, handle the ball a lot and get assist opportunities. Thomas Bryant, monster game in a tough matchup last night against Adams, gets probably a little bit better matchup tonight against San Antonio. But again, he's just the second option on this offense. He has the freedom to do a lot of different things. He's going to grab rebounds on a team that doesn't have a lot of rebounders. So Bryant certainly has GPP upside as well. The backcourt rotation should be a little bit different today. Isaiah Thomas, it's been hinted at, is going to finally come back. I don't expect tons of minutes for him, but it will at least make the rotation a little bit different. I expect Chris Chiozza to be the biggest loser in that regard. He played 15 minutes last night as the backup to Smith. I expect those minutes to go to Isaiah.
All right, solid breakdown there of that. See, I've got a couple people asking. Does EMAC have any clue about DFS or just host? That is a very fair question. I will say a Pico player. It's a little rough today. We got that little spam artist there I was dealing with. First big show, new sport. I got all new tabs and windows and such open. Not to fear, we'll get there. I've got about 2,000 articles under my belt. I've got over 2,000 shows and podcasts under my belt. This is finishing up year number 9 of DFS, Adam. Started in 2011, just one losing season. That was 2 years ago. Lost about $3,000 on 110,000 in play. So there's my little bona fides. Promise you, I won't steer you wrong. I'll help you out with contest selection and how to manage your fun and play and not go broke while doing it. That is what your old pal brings to the table here.
And I'll help you out with how to go broke 4 times, but then also make a lot of money and bounce back.
Yes, there you are. Adam is your highfalutin high flyer there. That is pretty awesome. Last night it was close. Adam and I talked about it a little bit pre-show. That overtime there knocked him out. He was peppering the $8, which was $100,000 to first, the $15, and then the $200 3 max. Adam, you only won $20K last night. It could have been $150,000.
It feels like a loss. I mean, obviously it was a good night, but I could do without Malik Beasley fouling half-court jump shots.
All right, so that is a one way to go there. Yes, so if you want the highs and lows, you follow along with Adam. If you want to be a ham and egger, I'm happy to help you out, show you how it's done. And there are not huge dollar signs attached to this. This year I will probably clear somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000. So there we are. It's not exciting, but I don't have to redeposit, and I don't have the wife doing a lot of questions other than, oh God, you have another show tonight? But guess what, Adam? After about 3 weeks of no podcast, you know what she said? Oh God, when is your next show? So it cuts both ways. All right, moving on here to the San Antonio Spurs. We've got 3 choices at the top here. You've got LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMar DeRozan, and DeJounte Murray. Looking at Yahoo pricing first here, as they are the presenting sponsor of our show, I would say not really excited about DeRozan at 33. I would prefer Aldridge at 33, but there are some decent power forwards and centers. Now, we do get power forward, center, center and utility. Now, some of the guys are going to be at different positions there, but on Yahoo, Aldridge is a power forward. I am also interested in DeJounte Murray at 22. That seems like a reasonable price point. He sat out most, if not all, of last season due to injury, but he is someone who is a very good player. He's great defensively, can get to the rim, do a little bit of assists, a good rebounder. His last game is kind of the high watermark. We're not going to expect 7 to 10 from the field and knocking down his threes and all of that, but I think he's definitely a threat for mid-30s in fantasy points, particularly on the sites that rewards you 3 points for steals or blocks. If you were choosing between Murray at 22, he's point guard eligible on Yahoo, and Aldridge at power forward at 33, is that $11 discount enough to move the needle to one or the other?
I prefer Aldridge just because he has the clear path to bigger minutes. Played 35 in the opener. I would expect 34, 35 minutes most competitive games. He averaged almost 1.2 DraftKings points per minute last season. Has a favorable matchup against the Washington front court. Murray is a really good player. The concern I have is just what's his path to big minutes when you also have Derek White, you also have Bryn Forbes, you also have Patty Mills all in the backcourt, and especially early in the season, I don't think that there is a huge impetus on Pop to be running DeJounte Murray out there for 30-plus minutes. So I think that's concerning. At 5,700 or at his Yahoo price, there's certainly still upside because he is a productive player. He gets it done in a lot of different ways. But it's just you have to think that the game plan is for him to be somewhere in that 24 to 26-minute range.
All right. So through our preliminary ownership popularity here, you've got Trey Lyles coming in at 19 from the Spurs on DraftKings. He is 3,700. How would you feel about Lyles as compared to the guys we're going to talk about from Phoenix and Sacramento?
Depends on the starting lineup. Lyles got the start at center against the Knicks. It could be Poeltl tonight against Bryant. It could be Lyles. If it's Lyles, I like him because you got 24 minutes from him. Obviously, being with the starting unit knocks down his usage percentage, but I think it also increases his minutes. If he's coming off the bench, I don't expect him to be in that 24 to 26-minute range like I do if he starts. So very, very dependent on the Spurs starting lineup.
All right. Are we ready to head on to the final two of the night?
Yep.
We've been talking about him. Here we are. Now, let's see. From a popularity perspective, Trevor Ariza at 34. Come on. He probably is 34, if not a little older, it feels like. That is a very expensive price point. Or pardon me. You can get a lot of leverage if you're not going that route on DraftKings. That's
going to come down to.
It has to. But for the time being, that's kind of where it is. I would suspect between their pricing. So you've got Holmes at 4K, Bjelica at 4K, Ariza at 36. Let's see, Emmanuel Mudiay is kind of in the mix there at 35. Jeff Green at 34. Depending on who's hurt from those later games, etc., that could help guys one way or the other. You also got a Joe Ingles. So just kind of hitting these as a group. Jeff Green, not very exciting for the Lakers, and that's just too much of a mess there. Bjelica, interesting in that game. He's probably the guy like the best of all of them. Rashawn Holmes, a little bit of a mess there because he got into some foul trouble, and this isn't just the best matchup for him, even if there's minutes available. De'Aaron Fox is dinged up, so that could open up some room there for Corey Joseph. There's a whole lot of moving parts here, Adam. So let's just assume kind of health is where it was last night, and focus on the Sacramento side first. What is your reading of the tea leaves after last night's game?
So I think the easiest way to prepare for situations like this where you do have a lot of moving parts is just to understand how the rotations are going, because that just makes it really easy to adjust as you get news. Starting with the front court, we had a ton of ownership on Bjelica and on Holmes last night, which I think on last night's slate made a lot of sense in that matchup and at their salaries. It makes a lot less sense today. One thing that we saw last night, and we talked about it being a very, very legitimate possibility, and I think it was actually it was probable, but Holmes didn't pick up any additional minutes, alongside Dedmon with Bagley out. He was still purely the backup center. He's probably going to play like 20 minutes. You're probably going to get 28 from Dedmon. And so if you still had Holmes at like 3,400 in a good matchup, that's still fine because he's still his bad games are still gonna be like 7 times your salary. But now that he's up to 4K in a tough matchup, my interest in Holmes really drops off. Bielitsa, I think, is being overprojected right now in terms of minutes. He played 28 minutes last night, but he didn't play a single minute in the second quarter. We saw Bogdanovic play the entire second quarter, get a lot of extra run because he was playing well. That isn't necessarily the case, or going to be the case. Bielitsa could pick up those second quarter minutes, but also he picked up extra minutes in the second half because Dedmon and Holmes both picked up their 5th foul in the third quarter. So Bielitsa came in at the 5. I think that you probably get somewhere around 26 minutes from Bielitsa. But again, it's a tough matchup. His price tag came up a little bit, and he's still a quality point per dollar option, but he's just not as appealing, I don't think, as he was last night. The one guy who I would be interested in, or most interested in, I think, in tournaments is going back to Dwayne Dedmon at only $4,500. He had a disappointing game, really hurt me in tournaments, but it didn't have to do with his play. He played 20.9 minutes, but again, he picked up his 5th foul with 1:19 left in the third quarter, didn't come back into the game, and that was it. But he played basically 14 to 15 minutes in the first half. If you're going to get 28 to 30 minutes without foul trouble from a $4,500 Dedmon, this is a guy, yes, it's a tough matchup, but he averaged 1.05 DraftKings points per minute with Atlanta last year. That's a pretty solid play at a $4,500 salary, and he probably won't have that much ownership.
I like it. Feels like it's going to be hard to click that button, Adam, but that oftentimes is where you can gain an edge, get some leverage, and we've seen Dedmon have his share of big games. They did put in Anthony Davis at center in the second half last night for the Lakers to draw Gobert out. I was reading the recap to draw Gobert out, and it's away from the basket, and it sort of worked. Potentially, we see Dwayne Dedmon in a similar strategy.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that he needs to bring to the Kings. He shot poorly from 3 last night, but he's certainly capable of it. Yeah, it's another reason why he could stay on the floor. He's also a decent defender.
All right. Moving to the other side. Well, anything else?
Yeah. So I mean,
if Fox is out, do you? Sorry to cut you off. If Fox is out, do you pivot to Corey Joseph?
Yeah, I think Joseph just clearly becomes a top value if Fox is out. It's obviously not a great matchup, but the minutes would be there. It would be it would be either Joseph and Farrell or potentially just more ball handling with the second unit for Bogdanovic as well. So I think it would be a boost for Bogdanovic. I think that it would obviously be a boost for Corey Joseph. If Fox is in, he's a really good player, but also it's a tough matchup against Utah.
All right, we have the question mark on, it looks like on FanDuel and DraftKings is going to be Conley versus Mitchell. You get a little bit of a discount there, or significant enough. It's about 10% there on FanDuel. That's keeping Conley in the mix. On the other side on DraftKings, what is it? It is just $500. I'd much rather go to Mitchell. I mean, Mitchell at 7,900 almost feels like potential play of the night here, in my humble opinion. I think Mitchell is, as we're seeing it, he's not going to be impacted by Mike Conley. I was curious to see how this would play out. Conley's still getting his usage. A lot of it's coming in shots, Adam, and he is not making them. 1 for 16 in the opener, 3 for 11 last night. That's 4 for 27. That is not good. He's averaging 4 dimes per game, and basically 1 steal in the 2 games. He'll get better. He's too good of a player not to. But the one guy I'm feeling, even at 7,400, I don't know that I want Mike Conley, but this could be the get right, get it on track game. You could see double-digit lead here by Utah at home against Sacktown, who's on a back-to-back. And then you've got Conley finally getting into the rhythm and such, and having a nice showcasing fourth quarter. I mean, that would be his path to 35, 40 fantasy points. Would that get it done for you? And how are you comparing Mitchell with that significant discount to the Rockets guards?
Yeah, so a couple thoughts on Conley. If you're playing in season-long leagues where you can trade, try and get him. He's not going to shoot this poorly. He's going to be a good player by the end of the year. So a season-long caveat there. In DFS, basically the corollary to that is that pay attention to his ownership projection. If it's artificially low because people are looking at game logs, then he becomes more appealing. He's not the best point per dollar option, just because Mitchell's a better play, Brogdon for cheaper, just a lot of point guards you can go to. But if he were to come in at like 5% ownership or something, he's certainly worth a shot in tournaments. Mitchell's the guy that I think is like the priority here, though. Only 7,900, like you said. He's the highest usage guy on the team as expected, 29.7% this season, 35.2 minutes per game through the first two, 16.7% assist percentage, grabbing rebounds as well. And it's a favorable matchup against the Kings. So Mitchell, absolutely a priority.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of your short list guys. I would be thrilled to get him on 35-40% of my lineups, particularly if that's going to be doubling the field. I may even take a stronger take and go up to 50% if that gets me doubling the field. Let's see. Looking at the rest of Utah, Mr. Jingles not getting a lot of usage, getting a lot of love. It's only 2 games. The concerning one, though, Rudy Gobert, back-to-back duds, Adam. I don't even know if that was a dud. That looks like you stepped in dog poo, didn't notice, and tracked it across your carpet inside your house. That's the kind of performances he's having right now. This feels like a get-right spot for him. How are you feeling about the Stifle Tower?
Pretty nice spot. He's another beneficiary of Drummond's price tag increasing. It really just opens up this mid-range to actually let you get to some of these guys. Gobert at, where'd he go? Oh, yeah, 8,200 is a pretty solid option against Sacramento. If Fox plays, you get a lot of block upside from Fox attacking the basket. Either way, it's a decent rebounding spot, a pretty inefficient shooting Sacramento team. So a lot of rebounding opportunities for Gobert as well.
All right. Let's see. We've got a question here for Yahoo. 37 for Pascal Siakam or 36 for Donovan Mitchell? I guess the real answer is put those hands together and use them as your foundational building blocks.
Yep.
All right. Final game of the night. Reminder, we do have a show 11 o'clock going the final look NFL DFS strategy show. I believe that will be the usual pairing is Chris Randone and Sal Vitri. So definitely give that one a look. In the can, we also have the On the Contrary. That was Chris Spags, Josh Ermsmeyer, and Alex Osimo Baker. So you can check out their contrarian thoughts there. Watch Spags fanboy out over the air yards. It should be a good time. Moving on, let's get the filter onto the last game of the night, and then we'll quickly hit some value plays as we come through. But our early look plays across each of the 3 sites. This is another game, value du jour. The Phoenix side, Adam, I don't know what we're going to do, so let's focus first on the Clippers. Hey, guess what? I don't know what we're going to do because the minutes are kind of all over the place. This is a great spot for Montrezl Harrell. I think Lou Williams is perfectly fine in this one. Zubac had a great game. JaMychal Green was solid. Pat Patterson had a big game. Adam, talk about the game flow here, because if you're just looking at the box scores, you really need to check out these game flow box scores because it is surprising.
The Clippers are another team that are going to vary based on games. They have so many good players on this team that they can use in different situations. They can trust the hot hand. They can go to different lineups for defensive reasons. It's a tough team to trust, but the guys that you really want to pay attention to are Harrell, who I think goes from, in his lower minute games, probably plays like 30. He would have played 29 or 30 minutes if the game against the Warriors had stayed close. And in other games, you'll see him play 36, 37 minutes. Zubac, on the other hand, the way you want to approach guys like that is take a shot on him in tournaments when he's low owned. Like last slate, we had a 3-game slate where he was low owned because he'd only played 9 minutes in the first game. There's just going to be some games where Zubac gets 18 minutes. There's going to be other games where he plays 8 to 10 minutes. So you want to just kind of play the ownership game with Zubac. Harrell is someone that I think you can kind of just trust regardless. He's still not that expensive. He's greater than a fantasy point per minute guy. And in 30 minutes, that's good. In 36 minutes, it's one of the best plays on the slate. So a pretty solid range of outcomes for him. Lou Williams, kind of the same boat. Some games you're going to see 36 minutes. Others you'll probably see like 30. But We did get 29 minutes from him against Golden State, even though he lost 4 minutes to the blowout. So again, was going to play like 33 minutes in that one. Those two guys, I think, really stand out as priorities. Kawhi is basically always going to be a better option on FanDuel than on DraftKings because of the roster flexibility or lack thereof. Having the roster two small forwards makes Kawhi really valuable. When you start comparing 32 minutes of Kawhi to 36 minutes of guys priced around him like Andre Drummond, et cetera, across positions on DraftKings, he becomes much less appealing. So pretty site dependent on him.
All right, last game / team to break down here. On the other side, we've got Phoenix. Now, here are the question marks. We don't know exactly what's going on with Ricky Rubio. He was seen limping in the locker room after the game. That, of course, would help out Tyler Johnson. I guess Javon Carter might come into play at that. That just feels like a bad play.
It depends on Rubio's questionable. If Rubio's out, Javon Carter's good. If Rubio's in, don't play Javon Carter.
Okay. The guy I like, three guys. Kaminsky, Saric, and Oubre. Oubre would be definitely number one for me. He was contributing in all facets of the game. He is kind of looking like he is going to make the Wizards very sorry they moved away from him, but such is the life of basketball contracts. So he's number one for me, probably Kaminsky number two, and then Saric number three. Saric capable of playing the 3, 4, or 5. Kaminsky will be backing up Oubre at the 4, probably playing some center minutes here as well. You've got Aaron Baines, got himself into foul trouble last night. That was a bit of a mess. Still like Kaminsky over Baines. What are your thoughts here on the cheapies in the front court?
Kaminsky's number one for me. We saw a pretty tight front court rotation from the Suns yesterday. You got 30 minutes in regulation, or 29 minutes from Baines. Kaminsky would have played about 28 minutes, and Saric would have played about 26 to 27. Kaminsky is still really inexpensive, and so yeah, Ed has multi-position eligibility on DraftKings, so he's my number one guy there. Baines playing 29, 30 minutes or in that ballpark is pretty nice. His price tag jumped from 3,200 to 4,800, making him the most expensive out of the group. So still an okay option, but I think Dedmon probably gets less ownership, would be my guess, and projects similarly. Saric is perfectly fine at 4,500 as well. So those three clearly my favorite options here. I'd be a little skeptical on Oubre. The price tag is okay, but not great at $6,000. Played 36 minutes in regulation last night before fouling out at the beginning of overtime, but that was in large part game flow dependent. He was playing really, really well. He was picking up steals. He was scoring a lot. And Mikal Bridges only played 12 and a half minutes. Normally, you're going to get more minutes from Bridges at the expense of Oubre. I think the more likely outcome is to get 30 minutes from Oubre, 18 from Bridges.
All right, you have heard it, the DFS strategy show here that is presented by Yahoo. You can definitely check them out. Go to any of the primetime NFL articles or the cash building block articles. Every day, those are going to be free, and you will see up there in usually the third or fourth paragraph instructions on how you can get into Yahoo with your initial deposit bonus by coming in on the Osmo link using our promo code. And with that first deposit, they will match up to $30 with your initial deposit in Yahoo Sports Rewards Points. Those are YSRPs, and those are available for immediate use into any contest. Just after lunch here, we'll have the Yahoo Baller article out for the NFL. I'm writing the receivers and tight ends, and I will be done with that. And you'll get to see that. That, of course, is a free one, and then you'll get the cash building blocks article out shortly as well. I'm about halfway done with that one. And no, I'm not writing them simultaneously, Adam. I have to do one thing at a time. That's the only way to go here. So looking quickly at some guys that might have, so let's look at, we'll go the DraftKings, FanDuel, and we'll finish up with Yahoo. So looking at our popular guys, tell me if you feel good about this or not. I'm going to throw out some interesting ones. 33% Josh Richardson on DK, 4,900. Trevor Ariza, 34% at 3,600. And Kemba Walker, 32%. He is 8,200, not in the same price point there, but they're in our top 10 for most popular guys Do any of them deserve that or not deserve that?
No, the ownership projections are going to change a lot. Javon Carter is second highest right now because I guess we're assuming Rubio's out. I'm assuming Rubio's in. So if he's in, that's going to change. Trevor Ariza shouldn't be 34%. He played 21 minutes last night, did absolutely nothing. I'm not sure why he'd be popular. But if he is, I'll gladly be underweight.
All right. Raw points of the night. Let's assume health for Embiid. We've got Harden, Westbrook, Drummond, Embiid. Would you like to rank those guys as you see it?
You said Harden, Westbrook, Drummond, Embiid?
Yes.
Harden, Drummond, Westbrook, Embiid.
All right. That was DK. Checking out over here on... Oh, and best play of the night. I think I'm just going to say Donovan Mitchell across the board.
I'll go with Harden.
Okay. Point per dollar still? Gets a little closer, but still.
10-2, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see. It's about the same here. Frank Kaminsky, 28%. We'll go down to the lower ones here. Frank Kaminsky, 28% on FanDuel. We've got center Dwayne Dedmon at 27. Kelly Oubre, small forward, at 26. Do you like or not like those guys there on about a quarter of your lineups? Dedmon, Oubre, and Kaminsky.
I don't on FanDuel. I don't. You said FanDuel, right?
FanDuel for this question.
Yeah. So I mean, the issue with Dedmon on FanDuel is the opportunity cost. Is Kaminsky a power forward or a center?
Power forward.
Yeah. So he's just infinitely more valuable than Dedmon is because of the position.
All right, and then let's see here. We mentioned your Yahoo building blocks should be Pascal Siakam and Donovan Mitchell. Let me check that filter and see what else we have over there. Harden there is 54. Westbrook is 49, and Drummond is 48. Clearly, it's James Harden for you.
Yeah, Harden's number one.
Harden at 54 or discounted down to Siakam at 37 and Mitchell at 36. That's almost $20.
What was the question?
Siakam, point per dollar, well, per their dollars. So this is kind of, would you rather spend 54 on Harden or drop down 17 to Siakam or 18 to Donovan Mitchell?
It depends entirely on your lineup. Like it all depends on the other players around them.
All right, there you go.
I think they're three of the top plays on the slate.
And we've got some $10 peeps and $12 peeps that we will get in there so you can facilitate all three of those guys on your lineups. We will have a show tonight at 6 o'clock that will be Fast Eddie Fear taking you down the home stretch on NBA Live Before Lock. Got a new sponsor. Definitely going to want to check that out. Coming up in minutes, literally 3 of them. We have the NFL show, final DFS strategy show of the week. And then do not forget tomorrow, you've got all NFL all the time. You get Alex, Ben Rasa, and Laffy. How can I forget Laffy D? He's going to take you guys game by game through the slate. And then, of course, you will get Live Before Lock an hour before kickoff there with Chris Baggs and Josh Engelman. Definitely check that stuff out. If you have not yet signed up for Yahoo, again, go to the top of the Cash Building Blocks article or the top of the NFL Primetime articles, 3rd or 4th paragraph, depending on the article. You will find the instructions and link on how to get your Yahoo deposit bonus. With that, you can follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS on Twitter. I am at EmacDFS, and of course, it is Asimo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.